God of War is really good. I hate to be like, oh, it definitely lives up to the hype, but it does. So if you're looking for me to come here and hate on the game, I'm not. It's not a perfect game. It's definitely got some problems, like you can say about any game that's even really good. But I definitely think it's something you should check out. Actually, you should check out the alternate box art. One of these is yours, the giveaway. I will announce the winner in a minute. But first things first, I'm not going to go into spoilers here. I just want to talk about the game real quick and how it made me feel, because it made me feel a lot of things. First and foremost, most importantly, it made me feel fun. I didn't expect this God of War game to really retain its identity. I thought it was going to lose it and become a new thing and really reboot things. Now it does reboot things a little bit, but it's not like a walking simulator type game like some people were worried about. It's also not The Last of Us at all. This is still very much a fun video game, an arcadey style action, very video game mechanics heavy video game through and through. It feels like a God of War game. You feel the identity here. It didn't ditch everything to become this grim, dark, sad storytelling sequel. It takes the things you love, it changes some things you love, but it keeps the certain aspects of it to still make it feel like it's not running away from itself, even though the plot definitely is. But I really love the combat, because the combat, while it seems at first like it's a big departure, despite it being totally different camera angle and everything, it still manages to feel like God of War combat, 100%. It's a little slower, it's a little more deliberate, it's a little more challenging, but there are certain aspects of it when you're really flying through some combos that still makes it feel like God of War. Also, just the way Kratos moves, the way he animates, at times I see echoes of the Kratos he used to be. And that goes down from everything, from him climbing, from certain big, QTE events where he's slam dunking a monster in the face with his axe. The way he moves in those moments, you're like, oh, there's that Kratos. There's the old Kratos. And it's like those little elements of that here and there that made it feel that much more special, coupled with, of course, the plot that does acknowledge the previous games and the sins of Kratos' past, if you can call them that. But it does a really good job of making you feel differently about the character. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, like I said, but I think it does a really good job of just kind of not really redeeming him, but acknowledging that in the previous God of War games, he was just a big shitty asshole that killed everything. The game definitely grapples with that in a really good way by giving him a son and making his son almost our view into Kratos and why he was like that, because the way his son questions his actions is the way we question Kratos' actions. And I think that's really cool. I also wasn't sure how they were going to do the whole mean dad, fatherhood, father-son thing with someone like Kratos, but they nailed it, especially from two ways, from a story perspective, but also from a gameplay mechanics perspective. First, the kid is not annoying. It's not a glorified babysitting side quest at all. The kid is effective and useful. Not only that, he's not a forced character at all. You grow to like him. He's the perfect amount of comic relief, but he's also way more relatable than Kratos. And to see him actually do his thing in combat makes it that much better. The kid is effective, he's useful for puzzles, but also as the game progresses and as you level up the son, and obviously as your relationship progresses with him, Atreus becomes more effective in combat and more in sync with Kratos, and when they're fighting together, it's really dazzling to see, and it's really cool. So it's like a story and gameplay connection where Atreus is growing in combat and learning from Kratos. You feel that. You also feel, like I said, from a character perspective, the game actually makes good on the promises it made, the things it set out to do with these characters, with their relationship, with the development therein. And then things, you get to know these characters along this adventure, and I think it's really satisfying. It's actually satisfying from beginning to end. And I feel like not a lot of video games with the story, a lot of games really whiff the ending with the story, but more importantly, they whiff some of the character stuff. They lose out on some of that chemistry that some people try to put in video game characters. And I think here, they did a really freaking good job, especially because I didn't expect this at all, because I'm not a dad, or I don't have kids or anything like that. I'm not old enough to do that. I don't want kids. They're fucking gross and horrible. That's another story. But honestly, more in this game than in any movie that has tried to do this type of thing, it makes me understand a frustrated dad. There is tension between these characters, and there are times when you spend so much time with Atreus and Kratos, and it comes to a point where Atreus would mouth off or do something, and in my head I'd be playing and I'd literally be like, oh, I just want to wring your neck right now. It made me feel like an angry fucking Kratos dad, and I didn't expect that at all. That is what I love, and that is what I take away. Like, yes, I love the new world building they do, the way they take these characters and they expand this world that just exists of gods and mythologies and pantheons all together in one place and time period. I love that. I love what it did, but really, I just like what it did with the characters, man. I thought that is probably one of the best aspects, story-wise, what they have going for this game, and I think it pays off. Now, before I go any further, I do want to announce the giveaway winner. This giveaway was awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing my shit. A bunch of new people have come on and watched my videos, and I didn't really expect it to blow up like that, but I'm really pumped. So hi, new people. Thank you for all of you guys who did enter the giveaway. I do really appreciate it. Like, I know I'm giving away free shit, but the fact that you shared my stuff does mean a lot to me. But the winner of this new copy of God of War is Harrison, and his username on Twitter is UncleLucky88. Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You are the person I randomly chose, so I'm going to get in touch with you to figure out how I can send this to you. But moving on, I guess my one complaint with God of War, honestly, is the lack of enemy types. I think that is a big issue. That is the game's one big issue. I wish even if they just introduced a little more variety and variance to the small amount of enemy types that they do have, I thought that would have gone a long way. Really just the bosses, the trolls and the ogres that the game keeps throwing at you consistently, then trying to pass it off as something different is kind of a bummer, and I really was kind of let down by that. Considering the rest of the game is so damn ambitious, I was expecting a little more, but what I did really enjoy is how Metroidvania this game is. It really feels more like a modern Metroidvania, like a Arkham game or a Darksiders game, and I think it works perfectly. It really, really rewards exploration, and it feels really satisfying to get that new thing, that new ability to go back to previous areas and get stuff. Because this is a great example of a game that's not totally open world, but it's open-ish world, and it's a well-designed world. That's the biggest thing. There are hidden nooks and crannies to find. There are harder bosses and enemies to find that'll beat your ass. There's tons of experimenting and trying new abilities to open up new things, and I love that. That makes it fun, that makes it satisfying, and that makes you hooked on the grind, because the hunt for the grind, the pursuit of it is that satisfying. Now, the game has tons of systems, talismans, enhancements, loot, armor upgrades, armor enhancements, all these different buffs, different abilities to learn through a skill tree. There's a lot stacked onto this game. It almost feels like almost too much RPG-ness, but I like it. It's all pretty satisfying. I did find myself powering through most of the skill unlocks far before I was done with the game, but doesn't matter, because the movesets you do get do feel satisfying, and the combat kind of opens up once you fully unlock everything and makes it 10 times better. And that's when it really starts to feel like a God of War game. And of course, I've said it in podcast form, I've said it in Before You Buy, the axe throwing is the most satisfying thing, man. They did that perfectly. It feels like Mjolnir from Thor. I love it. And I did say this in a new episode of the Because Video Games podcast, not to self-advertise, but the closest thing I have to a video game fetish is in this game when you throw the axe and you run as far across the map as you can and then call the axe back and stand there and wait for it to come and hit you right in the hand. That's awesome. That's so good. That's just good video game design right there. But whether you have or have not been playing, I definitely want to hear from you down in the comments. How you feeling about God of War? If you've been playing it, I want to know how you feel about the combat and also the story payoff. Do you think these characters are worth it? Maybe you haven't been playing God of War. Maybe you watched the whole thing on Twitch or YouTube and you just want to talk shit about it. Whatever. Let's talk down in the comments. I'll be down there talking to you guys. You know the deal by now. Clicking the like button helps us out. I'm going into my game ranks feel. I gotta stop that. But really, thank you guys for coming around here and listening to me ramble about stuff. I really appreciate it. As always, I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. You should subscribe because video games.